Time for another Patreon-only film rescue. We're talking about a very bizarre movie in this film rescue. We talked about Reign of Fire. It was me, Devon, and Seth. This was done right in the middle of lockdown. We were all quarantined. We were all separated from each other still. It was... I remember mentioning this episode years and years ago. I think it was back when we did the Terminator Salvation episode. Because we brought up Christian Bale. I mean, this movie is basically Christian Bale and Matthew McConaughey fight dragons from the center of the earth. And so I think that tangentially connects back to Terminator Salvation, which, by the way, was also a very good episode. Go back to the old Film Rescue archives. You can find it there. Yeah, this is a weird mishmash movie. It doesn't quite land story-wise, doesn't quite land character-wise, but there's great ideas in it. There's things I like in it. It's overall just kind of a jumbled mess, but it's an interesting mess. It's not the worst thing ever made. I wouldn't have regretted paying to see this in the theater if it had, if I had the interest at the time. But it's an okay movie. It's like a C+, B- if I'm being generous. We were trying to find other movies at the time that weren't just like giant piles of garbage, because I think the season before this was just dumpster fire after dumpster fire after dumpster fire. And it was really taking a toll on us mentally. So we decided for the following season, let's watch some stuff that's just like okay and average, and we can kind of just have random discussions and pitch better ideas. Because when you have a giant dumpster fire, like other episodes that I'll post later on are just like giant piles of crap, you really kind of get stuck in a corner, because you end up having to not just fix major chunks of the movie, you end up having to fix the entire movie. And at that point, it's just like, just throw the whole thing out and just start again. So, going back and doing these kind of average to mid-range movies, it definitely helped a lot more, and the episodes are much better for it. So, here's our Patreon-only cut of the film rescue of Reign of Fire. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Film Rescue Show. We're lending a helping hand to Hollywood in fixing their feature films. I'm your Pitchmaster General, Seth. Today I'm joined by host of Split the Difference and That Weird-Ass Game, Jesse.
Hello.
And long time no see, stranger, Devon is back on the show.
Howdy, y'all. Yeah, been a minute. I've been disappearing into the woods.
I also did that over this weekend, and it was wonderful, except for cracking my glasses in half. If you enjoy our show and what we do, especially after you hear all the good things we have to say, you can help support us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Montresor Media. That hosts all of our podcast, Split the Difference, That Weird-Ass Game, Palette Cleanser, this show, So What Else, and all of our other content for $1. You can get access to all of that. It's early access. It's wonderful. We release more than Netflix at this point, and it's pretty amazing. I love all of that. Today, we are talking about something that's been on the list for a minute, and continuing our theme of, hey, that's not so bad of a movie. We're talking about Reign of Fire. This was directed by Rob Bowman of Elektra fame.
And no, we won't fix that one.
Oh, God. Nothing to see here. Move along.
Move along.
Reign of Fire. My experience with this is actually... I think I saw this the year after it came out. I remember renting it from the video store and being very interested in the pitch off of the DVD cover, which was basically, what if dragons came back to life? Do you guys remember the first time you saw this movie, or was this the first time watching it for you guys?
Definitely not for me. I've seen this quite a few times. This is high on my list of almost favorite movies. Like so close to being good enough to hit the favorites list, but just every time I watch it, it's a more of a disappointment than I expect it to be. So,
how about you, Jesse?
I just watched it this afternoon. I had seen clips of it, especially the Empire Strikes Back scene. I remember watching that, and I saw that clip online. I was like, oh, that's pretty funny. Did you write that? Yeah, I did. But I had never seen the entire film all the way through. I just sat down and watched it. And I was like, oh, it's not that bad. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's not great. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. But then I checked the Rotten Tomato score. And it has a 42%, and I was like, are you kidding me? No.
Yeah, that's a little unfair.
Yeah, well, I think the reason for that is because this came out the same year as Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's... There was a lot of people that really... Was it Two Towers or was it Fellowship?
2004 was Return of the King, so I'm going to say Two Towers, because they were 2 years in between.
Was it 2 years in between?
I think so.
Can we clarify that?
The Two
yeah,
Towers.
I can double check in the...
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It came out the same year. The Two Towers came out.
Yeah, yep. I think that's the reason, is because everyone had... high fantasy was on everyone's mind, and they were just like, oh, this is the proper way to do it, to, the Lord of the Rings. Then they come out with Reign of Fire, and it's like a bunch of Mad Max rejects in a London wasteland. And it's like, this is an insult to this material. How dare you? I think that was the reason. It's kind of like the result of, like, you were talking about Fan 4 Stick and Pixels. Like, there was blood in the water for bad movies, so they just really took a giant dump all over Fan 4 Stick. Not that it didn't deserve it, but it maybe is a little bit more harsh than it probably deserved.
Early 2000s, that was the era of those pewter dragon statues that you could get at, like, Spencer's. Do you guys remember that?
Yes, I remember that. You want to seem bougie on a budget? There you go.
The early aughts were horny for dragons. It's kind of weird.
And I don't know why.
We all just wanted somebody to burn us, that's all.
Let's start off with some of the positive attributes of this movie. I genuinely enjoy this movie. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but there's a lot to like in here. But I think my standout, Gerard Butler in what would go on to be not his normal kind of role, is so fucking charming in this movie.
Yeah, he's actually a pretty decent guy. He's not like a scumbag like he is in so many of his other films. He's actually a genuinely charming individual.
He's funny. He's a side character, so he's not like, he doesn't have to carry the whole thing on his shoulders, and you can tell that he's just having a great time. That was a big. I had forgot he was in it actually until Jesse reminded me, and then going back through it, I was like, oh yeah, Gerard Butler was actually pretty fucking good in this movie.
Yeah,
he's for being a side role.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely an exceptional foil to the just complete seriousness Christian Bale brings to everything.
I know.
It definitely brought levity to what would have otherwise just been a very depressing opening.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's good points. How about you, Devon? What do you enjoy about this movie? What makes it almost one of your favorites?
I think the de-fantasization of dragons in this, for me, is like one of the things that always draws me to it, because they don't and don't get me wrong, I am absolutely in love with like the concept of like intelligent dragons and like, them being, but treating them as just another creature of nature without like a higher purpose makes them more terrifying. I don't think the film did the best job on that end, but portraying them as just like beasts of nature, and then how like humans would have to contend with something like that is one of the things you don't see very often, and I think really draws me back to this. Particularly,
it reminds me of like cicadas.
Yeah. The like
they come up out of the ground at a certain time frame, and then they just wreak havoc.
Yeah.
Thank God cicadas don't breathe fire.
Oh,
we're gonna have our cicadas coming back up this summer.
Oh man, I'm so sorry.
Oh. Isn't it like what is this, every 17 years, something like that?
Well, so there's actually a few different breeds of cicada. There's a 17-year, there's a 7-year, there's a 14-year, there's a 5-year. But basically, the longer the gestation, the bigger they are. So the 17-year ones are the like big meaty motherfuckers.
They're all gross.
They are very tasty if you barbecue them. I'm not going to lie.
You're fired.
Nice.
Listen, man, bug protein's the way of the future. There's 7 billion people on this planet. We need to get okay with eating bugs.
Remember that movie Snowpiercer?
Yes.
There you go.
I love that the twist of the movie is, oh no, we've been eating bugs. It's like, y'all didn't hear of Soylent Green? It could be a lot worse.
Apparently they didn't, because they've been on a train for about 30 years, so. Yeah.
How about you, Jesse? Positives out of the gate for you?
The pacing is really good.
Oh yeah,
It's really brisk. It moves at a good clip. Yeah, I really
It's
like the
true.
pacing. Even when I was like, oh, I'm, I feel like I'm approaching the halfway part of the movie. Oh no, it's close to the end. Oh wow, okay. It feels like it moves along at just the right pace. It's well structured. It's very well structured. It's just it reminded me a little bit of that movie Overlord.
yeah.
It's just a simple excuse me. It reminded me of a simple nuts and bolts action film. Like, we have a goal, we need to accomplish that goal, and there's some small obstacles in the way of the goal.
Yeah.
That's it. It's very, very basic. It's not very complicated. It's well done. It's not like the worst thing in the world.
No.
I also think that what's the helicopter pilot's name?
Alex.
Alex. Yeah, she's pretty well done. I love the fact they didn't make her like a love interest in the film. Thank God for that.
Right.
I'm very thankful they did not go down that road and have just a terrible love subplot. I'm very thankful. I hate that.
Yeah. They definitely did a great job of giving you exactly what you need to enjoy the story and nothing extra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I think was a missed opportunity, though, was in the beginning of the movie, you see the kid that's supposed to be young Christian Bale, which is immediately weird because Christian Bale was a child actor. It's immediately weird. So you see the kid go into the mine, and for some reason, a kid can just walk into a mine without safety gear. Whatever. Doesn't matter. It's a B movie. It's fine.
One scene where somebody like drops a hat on him would have been fantastic.
That would have been nice. Yeah. And Alice Krieg shows up for like a single scene.
Right.
In that scene, he gets spit on by one of the dragons, and then you see in certain shots, you see his eyes turn totally red.
Yeah.
And his eyes then turn black, and I was like, is this going to lead to something? Is he going to have like dragon vision or something? No. Doesn't
Nope.
lead to anything. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I think it was just establishing that they're kind of like beetles and they use the chemical to light things on fire. I think that's they like leaned too hard into making it a thing when no one was going to doubt fire breathing dragons. Like if you've bought into the premise that far, you're into it, right?
Yeah.
I will say this is of the theories of how a dragon could potentially breathe fire. This is my personal favorite, which I always like about the film. Like, it seems the most realistic.
It helps it make sense why like a dragon would drool fire or something like that. It lends itself very visually to it.
Yeah. I mean, we have some issues with just dragons in general, and we brought that up a bit in the chat when we were watching the film today. We'll get to that in the negatives. But positives, it's just a well-made action film. I didn't have any problems with like editing or pacing, or maybe there's some problems with the color grading, but that'll be in the negatives. But overall, the movie's fine. I actually even said this would be a good double feature with our previous film, Project Power.
Yeah.
It's a B movie. It's not a bad movie. It's a B movie. It's A-list stars with a decent budget inside of B-grade material. That's fine. It's not meant to be deep or complicated. It's just meant to be fun. One thing I also really like is at the end of the movie when Matthew McConaughey jumps off that tower at the dragon and goes full Kratos.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, oh yeah, this is stupid, and I love it. Yeah, it's great.
Honestly,
Jesse,
Matthew McConaughey in this whole film was just fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
oh, he's hamming it up.
yeah, for a guy who plays such like serious, nuanced roles all the time, to see him play somebody who's like, yeah, the dude's crazy, he wants to kill dragons, run with it, was so much fun.
Was this the first time that Matthew McConaughey was more ripped than Christian Bale?
Yeah.
might be the only time.
That might be the only time. Maybe they were in the gym together and they were like trying to outlift each other, and McConaughey was just like, "Motherfucker, I'm gonna beat you." And then like 3 years later, Bale does Batman, and it just got absolutely ripped.
Or even Equilibrium a year before, he was a tank in that movie.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Big boy. Jesse, I forget the way you put it exactly when you first joined the show, but this is the Saturday afternoon nursing a headache, hangover kind of thing.
This is a hangover movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went out drinking the night before. You got a hangover. You want to just chill. Order a pizza, just chill on the couch and nurse the hangover. Yeah, this will do it. There's 100%. Like no deep thought within the film. There's no deep philosophy. It's just dragons are destroying the world. We got to stop the dragons. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
This is something I could easily see turned into one of those like terrible CGI red box movies.
Oh,
and
yeah.
The fact that it's not that, I think, is a big testament to just the filmmaking in general.
Yeah.
I'm glad this movie is a one-off. I'm glad it's not like a big franchise.
Series.
Yeah, like
the Dragonheart series. Yeah, no, I was watching the movie and I was impressed with how good it looks for how old it is. Even like the dragons themselves, like everything looks fantastic. And
there's a few like not so great effect shots, but they're really smart to keep the dragons often in the background a lot of the time. So a lot of the CGI didn't even pop out to me at all until I think the last act is where it's kind of like, oh, that's right, it's 2002. I remember.
Yes, this clearly does not have the budget of Lord of the Rings.
No,
it's very obvious, but overall it's pretty good looking. There's maybe like one or two model shots that doesn't quite look right. I think it's when they get to London and you see the fire burning the skyline and you see the dilapidated buildings and there's fire burning within them.
Yeah.
You can tell it's a miniature because the flames are larger than the size of the windows. You can just see it. You're like, it's not quite right. But if you're not looking for it, you're not going to mind.
Right.
But I was just like looking for some small things, and overall it's not a big deal. It's fine.
Yeah, totally.
For 2002, this looks pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
The entire sequence of the dragon attack after the Americans show up, that just like beginning to end, placing the GPS trackers and the halo jump and all of that whole sequence, I think stands out as like the proof of concept that this could have been like genuinely off the chain amazing. I love that whole sequence.
I will say the whole Halo jump thing, I actually said this in the chat. I said, this would be a really amazing sequence if the plan wasn't so goddamn dumb. I mean, just the idea of, we're going to catch the wings in a net in order to stop it from flying, and then we can shoot the thing? Well, apparently you shot the thing just fine from the ground without that, so I'm not sure why you need to do the Halo jump.
Right.
It just seems like
looking cool.
Besides looking cool, that's all it's there for. I mean, it's a good sequence. It just feels like superfluous.
Yeah.
Considering the fact that every other time they've killed dragons in that movie, they do it from the ground without need of people in helicopters.
Right.
Also, where are they getting the fuel for those things?
Yeah.
It's kind of the question of like Mad Max. Like, where are they getting the fuel for this stuff? Doesn't matter. Don't think about it. It's a B movie.
Hey, maybe they're tapping dragon glands,
Right. Yeah, you can't put 87 octane into a helicopter.
The whole, it's funny, the whole Halo jump, for as over the top it was, did a good job of illustrating how difficult the dragons are to fight, which for me made when the first got to London, that was the moment that broke the movie for me, because everything they talk about, everything, all these plans, all these skills, they just like throw it out the window, and then the big dragon, the final boss, doesn't seem as bad because we don't like he just wipes out a bunch of people who are unprepared for him.
Right.
It would have made the ending that much more tense if we had watched them actually like execute properly in that moment.
I think something that broke it for me when I was watching was the scaling of the bull dragon. Because when you first see him, he is, catching the other dragons out of the sky and eating them. So you get a very exact, like, he is 3 times bigger. His wings cover like 3 city blocks. And then in the actual finale, he is exactly the size of all the other dragons.
Yep.
Yeah. It's, I think that Corridor Crew did an episode regarding Reign of Fire, and they said, yeah, sometimes he's big, sometimes he's the same size as the rest of them. It does,
Yeah.
They clearly are just, they're trying to, it's like a red herring kind of thing. They don't want to give away the big guy right away, I guess. But at the same time, they do display him as being as big as a giant city block. So why is he walking on the street at the end of the movie?
Right.
I don't think that one stick of C4 is really going to do too much to him, but whatever. It's the end of the movie. You're into it. Doesn't matter.
If you've sat this long.
If you made it that far, you're not going to care.
I think the fact that they have... there's one, like, to-scale dragon physical prop after they kill it with the helicopter jump, where you can see Matthew McConaughey next to the head of the dragon. You know exactly how big the regular dragons are. So then when, at the end of the movie, he Viking axes or tries to Viking axe the bull dragon, it's like, well, that's the same size. Oh, okay, never mind.
Don't think about it.
It would be funny if that was intentional, just to throw the audience off into thinking that they just killed one of the female dragons.
Yeah. No, it definitely felt more like they did not think ahead, and when they got to the scene where they're like, he's going to walk through the streets, they were like, oh, wait, his current size does not work for that, so resize him. And then just didn't fix it.
Yeah. This movie was missing one character that I wish was throughout, just a side bit character that anytime someone calls them dragons, they'd like raise their hand and they go, actually they're wyverns, because just the actually guy.
Yeah.
Well, you see, dragons have 4 legs and separate wings, and wyverns have arms in their wing. Sorry guys, not trying to dismantle it. That one character.
Here's the thing, Seth. Nobody cares.
I know, but I care.
Yeah. There
they
are
fly and they
definitely
shoot
people
fire.
who care.
It's fine.
I'm the guy that enjoys that character, because you could literally have someone say exactly the same thing. You could have Christian Bale be like, nobody fucking cares. Which, sure, it would be awesome, but just to have that, actually, they're wyverns. He has pieces of paper to show the different kinds of mystical creatures.
And then somebody says it during the attack, and he's just like, "It's not a dragon, it's a." And then the dragon's head comes in and grabs him out of the hold.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Totally Deep Blue Sea, that whole situation. We're gonna pull together.
If actually, that's something you could probably cut into the movie, just like green screen yourself in a costume in different scenes. Actually, it's a wyvern.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's overall a very, very nuts and bolts movie. I really enjoy that. Let's transition into the negatives. I'm gonna steal this one. Mm-hmm. The casting in this movie is ass backwards.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because I've been conditioned to see Christian Bale as like the gruff, jacked guy in the movies, and Matthew McConaughey is like the charming leading man. And your mileage may vary. I actually have been talking to a few other people that like the fact that the casting is reversed in this case, but I think Quinn should have been Matthew McConaughey, and I think Christian Bale should have been Van Zandt. That's my 2 cents.
I definitely agree. Because whenever I look at Christian Bale, I always think just like angry Christian Bale on the set of Terminator Salvation.
Right.
I just think of that. I don't think of a guy that's got his head together. I don't see him usually playing the straight man.
Yeah.
He should be off kilter a little bit, which is why he was perfect for Batman.
Right.
Yeah. McConaughey is good at playing just kind of like the everyman. That all right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and
that's him.
I think Christian Bale is so unassuming as the leader. There's even like a little, not squabble, but there's a little like reference to the fact that he's the leader when the Americans show up, and Gerard Butler's like, well, that'll be you. And he's got this look as if like he didn't realize he was the leader of this group for a second.
Yeah.
And it being that unassuming, I'm like, do you think a bunch of people really would have like rallied behind him? I'm assuming because he was at ground zero and for no other reason. Because he was a kid. He didn't bring like expertise or anything to the game. So yeah, I Matthew McConaughey is way more charismatic and believable. Of like, oh yeah, actually, if it were the dragon apocalypse, I'd probably hole up in a castle with Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Jesse, how about you? Some negatives for the film.
Well, the big negative I have is, god damn, this movie is gray. This was a thing. This was a thing back in the 2000s. A lot of movies had this color palette.
Yeah.
This, Children of Men, even like the Two Towers kind of has a gray color palette to it.
Yeah. The desaturated kind of thing. Yep.
Desaturated. Not really like the raw footage, but definitely just gray. Very grayscale. It's I don't like this look. I have said this multiple times. I don't like this look.
Yeah.
Well, and it's functional in Lord of the Rings, right? Because the Shire's very green and happy and very saturated colors, and the goodness is leaving the world, and that's visually represented. Here, it's like this is already what I think London looks like, and now it's just even grayer.
Yeah.
Because it is what London looks like. And that's the other big negative. And Erin pointed out, Erin got her COVID vaccination, so she feels like crap tonight, so she's not here. She said, why put this in London?
Yeah.
Like, there's literally no reason other than, they got tax breaks to film there. Yeah, it just feels like the most generic, flat, dull, typical place to shoot something like this. And just because Arthurian legends, dragons. I was thinking more Beowulf. The last chapter of Beowulf, slay the dragon, reclaim the kingdom. That's all I was thinking. Because at the end of this movie, Christian Bale has a battle axe, and I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah, I feel like, and again, London not necessarily the place, but I feel like part of what they were looking for is a country that had like an actual military, like a large enough military that the idea of dragons overtaking that would be scary. But it doesn't really come through, honestly.
Yeah. And we don't know what's happening in the rest of the world. That's kind of like part of the plot. So I would love to have the kind of setting where they're like, I don't know, did you hear that this random ass country's doing just fine because they figured out the key to keeping dragons away? Like that kind of stuff. That world building would be at least more interesting.
It would also help because the idea of the American military just showing up in London for no reason. Like, we got here on an airplane. Wait a minute. I thought that the sky was full of dragons.
Right.
It just, yeah.
Yeah.
Do they, I'm trying to remember, did they explain exactly why they came to London other than it's ground zero?
No,
I don't think so. I think that's the only reason they gave is they were after the bull. Well, no. Oh, they did say there's one male, so they were after him, and he resides in London.
Yeah, well, that's rather convenient.
Yeah, I mean, well, it makes sense because that's where they came out. But also, like, how would they know there's only one male? Are they like
they wouldn't
to borrow from Jurassic Park? Are they going out in the park and pulling up the skirts and?
Yeah, they wouldn't know. It's like I said, it's a high concept B movie.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be taken too seriously. Like, okay, there's only one male. All right, it's fine.
It's one of those like finales of convenience. The Phantom Menace has the same problem, right? If you take out the Trade Federation ship, all the droids shut down. If you are the Avengers and you take out the connection to the mothership, all the Chitauri shut down. It's like you get to end everything at exactly the same time. So it's just kind of, the convenience of that, which I assume they're still going to have to deal with some dragons, right? They're starving dragons, but it's not like everything's fixed. It's like now we have the sliver of hope that the humanity can survive.
Yeah, they don't really discuss the lifespan of a dragon at all, which I guess is kind of a big question. Like if the females are growing full size and dying off in a year or two, it would make sense that killing the male saves you. But if they're living for 80 years, like you're still stuck.
Yeah, but if they've been in hibernation for like hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of years, why is it that if they come up out of the ground that they would die off within like a couple of months?
Well, I forgot that it's been like 13,000 years, because they said the reason that they went underground is because their ash caused the ice age, which is 13,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So if they've been able to survive that long sleeping without food, why would they die off in a couple of months?
Right.
Yeah. I will say
convenience.
Yeah, convenience. I will say one thing that I did notice is that the last scene when they're putting up the radio tower, all the color comes back into the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but like I said, the majority of the movie is 99% gray, so it's kind of a mess to get there, but, you know, I get it. I understand. I know why you did that.
It also, like, randomly turns blue sometimes, which was really bothering me.
I noticed that.
Just like a scene would pop in and be blue, and then you'd cut back to the other person and be gray again. And every time it did it, I would just be like, what just happened? Like, why? Why are we doing this?
I don't know if this popped out to you guys. The scene where McConaughey's on top of that chimney stack just before he's going to die. That's all green screen, but it's green screened and lit in a way that it looked like the 300. Like, it looked very Zack Snyder early aughts to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is an interesting choice. I'm glad the whole movie didn't look like that.
Yeah. Change styles real quick on us, why don't you? Just for this scene.
Right. Devon, how about you? What prevents this from being one of your favorite films?
Yeah, I think besides what I already mentioned about like the first time they entered London being a big one for me, the other one that really bothers me, and I know it's a B movie, this shouldn't, but the base concept of the dragon life cycle bothers me. So it's kind of twofold. One, we watch the male emerge, right? Beginning of the movie. Where did the females come from? Like, just, they're like, oh, the females started laying eggs, hundreds of dragons were born, but from where? Did the male go out and, like, dig them up out of the ground and wake them up? Like, what happened there? The other side of it is, like, kind of what we mentioned earlier with them being like cicadas. The idea that they burn everything to ash and consume the ash, and they also birth literally thousands of dragons that rapidly is unsustainable as a species. Like, the whole world would become hostile to them in a matter of, at best, a couple of years. And I get that it makes it like an apocalyptic movie, but it's like, if all this work to make dragons feel like real animals,
right?
This is a highly unsustainable species. Period. Nothing else could exist on the planet. They wouldn't survive for long.
Right.
Yeah, I even pointed it out. Like, how are they actually able to survive if they're just destroying everything? Like, if they can survive that long without eating, then why would they be hungry when they wake up?
Yeah.
I think that you pointed this out, Seth, that the dragons in this movie, or the wyverns, whatever the hell you want to call them, don't follow the laws of thermodynamics at all.
No.
You want to clarify that?
Yeah, so basically, in our reality, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just changes states, right? So when you are hungry, if you need to grow, you have to consume other matter. That's just what eating is. If you're a dragon in this movie, apparently you can sleep for 13,000 years, and then when you come out, you are going to lay a bunch of babies that have to grow from something, I assume. So that means they're eating things to grow. So either they're going to cap out at, like, you know, hey, we're out of food, now the dragons can't grow anymore. But not only that, they're too big to exist, too.
Yeah, they can't. Dragons that are this big can't actually fly.
Right. they would not be able to achieve lift unless
Yeah.
their wings were like 5 times larger. But then the energy required to fly is a part of the issue, and also they would weigh so much that their bones wouldn't support the meat on their body.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're just too big. They're just too damn big.
For sure.
And like you could say this is nitpicking to point out, however, the linchpin of this movie is, hey, we're doing dragons but realistic. I'm going to run with the realism here, and the realism isn't helping.
I feel like they could have gone with drakes instead of dragons and achieved an equally good movie. They wouldn't have gotten the Halo jump scene, but it definitely would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I like to point
For
out
those that don't know what a drake is, it's a mini dragon.
Right.
No, it's a dragon without wings. They can be huge.
Oh.
Drakes are huge. They don't have wings. They have 4 legs and no wings.
See,
So what am I thinking of then?
You are. Oh man, what are they called? There's a specific name for the wingless dragons because they're more based in Chinese culture than ours.
So the movie that kept popping into mind, maybe it was just like because it came out pretty close to this movie. Pitch Black has a weird alien life cycle for their.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for their creatures, but the creatures tap out at like 8 feet, which they're still fucking terrifying. They also have the same vision problem, which is kind of funny.
Same effects.
So, yeah, exactly. So I was thinking the same thing in those lines, Devon, of like if they were more like car sized. They because then they could hunt in packs, and maybe this is all just wanting the big grand dragon for the film, but a pack hunting, flying velociraptors essentially. That's goddamn terrifying.
Yeah. No, I mean, and especially because like instead of making them like big and powerful, you could make them fast, and they could like think of something that moves like a velociraptor and breathes fire.
Right.
That's terrifying. Worms, by the way, is the specific term for flying dragons without wings.
Oh, that's right. Worms.
That's with a Y and not whatever other letter you normally use, folks.
Not Dune worms.
Speaking of things that are too massive to exist.
Shut up! Quiet!
Stop poking holes in my dune.
So if I poop into a still suit, does that mean that I'm actually a shitbag?
Yes.
Is that a term of endearment on Arrakis?
Oh, my little shitbag.
Just.
So I have a question about Matthew McConaughey's Kentucky Irregulars.
Yeah.
So they have a chieftain tank and a Westland helicopter. That helicopter cannot make the flight from America to London, first of all. Also, you can't just throw a helicopter inside of a plane.
You can if the plane is big enough.
If the plane is big enough, sure.
There was a James Bond movie where they did this. Damn it, I'm gonna go with it.
I mean, you'd have to tear it down if this dismantled the wings, took off the legs. They pack small enough to fit into like a properly sized cargo plane.
Sure, I'll grant all that, but then they also they have to fly through all the dragons to what I assume is not going to be a easy landing in England. I'm questioning how they got all their stuff here. Like, I think the movie needed them to show up, and this is definitely an issue with the location, right? So
yeah.
England is exactly the wrong place to do all this, because you have to introduce things like, oh, how'd the Americans get here with all their equipment? The easy way is to say, well, maybe there's one like airship left out there that's out on the water, and they could, kind of make port, and that's how they're keeping away from the dragons, because the dragons aren't going to fly overseas very often, right? But
Yeah.
instead, the movie opts for, no, they just took a plane from America with a tank and a helicopter in it.
Because the sky is theirs.
Right. Which, like, badass fucking line. Love the thought there.
Not the full explanation of what is going on, though.
Right. It's one of those things where I don't know if the movie is just like pleading with me to turn off my brain, or if we're maybe to assume that Van Zandt is just a liar. Either one of the two would be more functional than me just running with this, I guess.
Yeah. That would have been a fun aspect of the film where, like, it seems like everybody working under him is a little distrustful of him, like fully trusting in him to complete the job and do it, but like never really paying attention to the things he says, or like side-eyeing each other when he's telling stories.
Yeah, right.
I feel like they really were. This feels like a script that almost is missing a piece of information. Like they're trying to turn him into like Captain Ahab.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels like they're leaning into that because there's that one scene right before they get to Pembury, and the road's blocked, and they see the dragon coming up over the horizon, and he says, "Mount the 50 cal and get ready," and they're all like, "What? Like, shouldn't we run?" So I'm feeling like that's the deal. They're trying to portray him as Captain Ahab, and he loses his entire crew, and it destroys him in the end.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's not laid on thick enough. His crew doesn't get much development.
No.
Yeah, we don't
Besides
care
Alex.
about them before they all die.
Right.
Yeah. Besides Alex, who gets real development as a character, everybody else is just kind of like fodder for the dragons.
Right.
But then she survives. Like, if she had died, that would have made sense. Would have helped.
Sure.
But
Yeah, I think so. So this is something that happens on the show from time to time, and this is the weirdest case of it that I've ever seen, where a movie presents a better movie within its storytelling without actually giving you that movie. It's a weird case because I genuinely want to engage with and like this movie, but when they're presenting the idea of a bunch of soldiers in Kansas fighting dragons to get a tank into an airplane and come to London, that sounds like a better movie to me.
yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
or
literally,
this Captain.
yeah, I was going to just say, literally, the whole thing could be the same, told from their perspective. Better
Right.
movie.
Yeah, 100%. Way more interesting.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because, again, like the other cases where this has happened, where they pitch a better movie within their movie, normally I'm like, okay, let's just trash the whole thing and run with it. In this case, when we get into the pitch section, I don't want to drop everything because I do really like it, but it's really hard to not knee jerk and say, let's follow the Kentucky Irregulars and see what that's all about, because that seems
they're
way more
actually
fun.
the ones that are doing things. If it wasn't for them showing up, then they wouldn't have stopped the dragons in the first place.
Right.
Because Christian Bale's entire crew, Quint's entire crew, they're not doing anything. They're just holding up.
I wish this was more of the or more clear in the character trajectory, because Quinn's development is that he's been basically stuck since he's been a kid. He wants to hunker down, dig deep, or whatever they say. His character arc is, no, you need to go out and fucking do something about this. You can't just like hide from all your problems. And then the opposite for Van Zandt, which is you can't just shoot your way through everything. You're gonna need something to save eventually. So like maybe don't gun your way through all of your men so quick. And it's there, but it's not apparent. Like I'm digging for this. I'm pulling it out, and it's not actual text within the film.
Yeah, you have to extrapolate some things out to grab more content.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's got its issues, but it's not, it doesn't like break the movie.
No, yeah, it's very functional.
Yeah. It just needed a little bit more.
I'm trying to think if there anything else popped out to me as like any major issues. Anything else stand out to you guys?
The climax is a bit weak.
Yeah.
They just fire one stick of C4 into the dragon's mouth and the dragon explodes. That's the end? Okay.
I think my biggest issue with that was they know that the dragon's weak when it rears up to breathe fire.
Yeah. How
do they know that?
They wouldn't know that unless somebody had seen that and survived, and no one has ever survived. It's like in Pirates of the Caribbean where they're just like, and they leave one man to tell the stories, and they're just like, well, who's telling the stories?
They left no survivors. Well, how did we find out then?
Yeah, but yeah,
that's why I've always liked the leave one man behind, because that's frightening as fuck. Inglourious Bastards, that's the one that did it the best. The whole we always leave one alive to tell the stories, and then Hitler's like, don't tell anybody anything.
Yeah, there's a storyline of The Punisher where that happens as well, where Frank is going around all of New York City killing all the mobsters in all their hideouts, and he leaves one guy behind.
Yeah.
And the guy is just terrified and catatonic.
Didn't the I don't think it was the Punisher TV show, but Punisher in the Daredevil TV show, didn't he do that?
He did that. Yeah, he did the TV show. Yeah, in the Daredevil show, but in the Punisher TV show, he's just boring because that show was boring.
Oh man, the only standout scene for me in that was when Frank goes into the pawn shop to get weapons, and the guy offers him kid porn, and he just locks the front door, and I'm like, oh fuck. We know exactly what's about to happen.
You know what's about to happen.
Yeah, so Reign of Fire, very functional. I love high concept. I think the adherence to stark reality is maybe part of the issue that holds the movie down. Or the way that it wants to be all part high fantasy and part high concept apocalyptic action movie.
Yeah.
I don't think the two things are incompatible, but the presentation it maybe lacks a little bit for it if I were to try to make it concise.
I do love the fact that it does come up and takes place in the year 2020. And considering the way 2020 went, this is pretty much on par.
We were just one dragon short from this being just exactly our future.
Yeah, we were so close. Oh, man. So close. Hey.
Well, if there's no final thoughts, Devon, anything else you want to add?
No, not really. I think we've covered it.
I think we should take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to turn it into a writer's room today. We don't have a direct pitch, but we've come up with some good ideas just in the last 45 minutes reviewing the movie, so I think we can piece something together by the end of this. In the meantime, here is a word from one of our friends.
Are you in need of a break from the darkest timeline? Check out the Geeks with Shields podcast, a weekly nerdy escape with hosts Axel and Ulrich, talking all things from forgotten TV and video games to breaking down movie franchises. And if Warhammer is more your thing, then check out the Geeks with Grimdark podcast. You can check out both of them from their previous film rescues in episodes 89 and 123.
Welcome back to the show. We're talking about Reign of Fire. Oh, I just got the pun in the name. Oh my fucking god.
You just got it. Are you serious?
As I was saying it, I was like, because I don't normally question titles of movies.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy. I'm fired. I'm firing myself.
You fired yourself from your own show. You just got it. That's unbelievable.
I didn't even think. Anyways, Reign of Fire. Let's have some fun with this, actually. So I would like to throw my pitch black idea into the middle of the table. I think pack hunting, basically sky raptors, would be infinitely more terrifying and way more functional in this realism dragon setting.
I agree.
Yeah. I would I'm going to throw this out there. I think they'd be a bit scarier if instead of flying, they were gliders.
Ooh.
The reason for that, I love the idea of something that is more, it's huge, but is also a stealth hunter. When you said velociraptors, which I'm now going to call them Velocidragons just from here on out.
Okay.
I immediately thought of the crop field and how terrifying it would have been to have something stalking them through that field.
Yeah.
Just
Which
makes me like
that's like
really
the
makes
best
me
scene
want-
in the Lost World. The best scene is when they're in the tall grass and they're like, "Don't go into the tall grass," and you see exactly why.
Yeah. It especially because there's that whole scene on the side of the mountain where they see the rocks move but don't see the dragon. Like if something that big and terrifying was also a stealth hunter, and it makes me want this movie to be less of an action drama, which it was trying to be, and more of an action horror.
I think survival horror is the right genre for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Remember the scene in Alien Covenant where all the weird aliens, the was it the neomorphs, the white ones?
Yeah.
Are hunting them through all the wheat fields?
Yes.
Basically, extend that out to being the entire movie. That's the movie.
Dude, I would piss myself with joy.
There you go. I think we're done. We can go home now.
Well, actually, so I like the gliders idea. However, it gives us a very fun problem of the setting because if they're gliding, there has to be a lot of verticality in our landscape. It can't be a bleak London flat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
there has to be
that was Aaron's complaint. Get it out of London, please.
100%.
Anywhere else.
Well, that could be a thing too, because you could play up the side where dragons, their natural habitat is mountain ranges, right, where they can get up and down, and with their size, it's very advantageous for them. But then big cities are also, with their tall buildings and stuff, sort of a similar habitat, especially if they climb well.
Yeah.
And it kind of gives a weird hope to humanity where they're kind of living out in more of the flat areas to try to avoid that. But as dragons become more desperate, they're wandering out into these places as well. It also gives you a reason why a helicopter would be an actually advantageous vehicle.
Yeah. So something I brought up in the group chat as we were going through it, I think a nomadic culture makes way more sense. Because it gives you the ability to showcase lots of different environments that maybe the Velocidragons have adapted to. But B, hunkering down in a place where the dragons would remember that they're in that castle. I'm actually kind of surprised they weren't constantly being attacked because animals know where their feeding grounds are. So it would make sense that the dragons would come back more often than once every couple months. So I think a nomadic culture would be more fun and interesting, and it lends itself to the Kentucky Irregulars being kind of the center of the story.
Yeah. No, I like that. Especially if you do a little bit of a split showing where we start with the Kentucky Irregulars and Quinn's crew, and we're seeing them kind of a little bit back and forth, and seeing the difference between an actual militia and regular folks and how they handle that, because a militia is going to be bold and brass. They're going to be out there killing dragons as they go. Regular folks without all of that would have to operate in a much different pattern, right?
Yeah. I like the idea of they're kind of visually showing them as the pioneers and the what do they call the covered wagon trails? They had a nautical term for that was basically as they went across the landscapes in their trails of carts and stuff. I like that imagery. They circle up at the end of the night to keep watch on each other. The middle is where they keep all the kids safe, where they put on the, Star Wars play. That has to stay. That sequence.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Star Wars play. That, of course, that's staying.
Have to stay, yeah.
Yeah.
And you could, like, for them, you could really lean into, like, the camo. That could actually be kind of a fun thing to play with. Because they don't have the weapons, they have to be much more aware of how dragons sense the world. So the way they camouflage their tents and everything is very informed on what has worked in the past, which gives them something real to contribute when they finally do run into the Kentucky Regulars and are like, hey, like, this is a big weakness for them. This is how we hide from them.
Yeah.
And not just like, ooh, here we are, a bunch of people, and here are our heroes coming in to save us, and, you know.
I'd love for there to be like a mutual respect of like the irregulars obviously have like guns and military training and they're kind of like set up for this, but then when they see the, you know, kind of regular pioneer type people, that like mutual respect of, hey, if you survive this far, you're doing something fucking right. So like, I'm not going to piss on your parade.
And then think about how that plays out when the Kentucky Irregulars go after like the final thing and they fail and they come back, and then Quinn's like, well, I guess we got to do it my way now that you don't have the crew and all the weapons. So here's how we use stealth, you know, with what weapons you do have left, and you create, you know, a more balanced ending.
Yeah.
Also, that brings up something I want to point out. That's another negative I had, which was when Van Zandt goes back to the keep and sees Quinn and rescues the survivors from the hold in the basement, and he's kind of like, you were right. And then basically saying that, oh, we should have just stayed here and hold up. But then they just go back out and they start hunting the dragon, just the three of them.
Yeah.
So Van Zandt was right. He just said, well, we're just going to do that again, but with less people.
Well, you see, Jesse,
Fantastic.
the movie needed to end at some point.
Because the movie needed to happen. It's a problem with the character. If, like you said, if the character roles were switched, if that was Christian Bale saying that, I would buy that more than McConaughey.
Sure. I think it's a big reason for the casting switch up. Also, let's make that canon to our pitch. We have reversed their castings.
Yes.
I think a big reason is McConaughey comes off as cocky, whereas Christian Bale in that role would have come off as like stern and confident. And then vice versa, you know, instead of being kind of milquetoast as a leader, McConaughey would be charismatic. So I like that. I agree for sure.
That brings up the question too. If we're gonna switch Christian and Matthew, do we switch Gerard's character with Alex? Like, do we swap them? Because like,
Ooh, interesting.
I feel like the foil for both of them from a partnership perspective worked really well. And if, like, thinking about Matthew McConaughey's charismatic character leading a group of people, having an executor with him, somebody to, like, execute the discipline, to keep people on track and do the hard things, makes a lot of sense for him. And then, of course, we all know Gerard Butler as a fighter is just, you know, always fantastic.
Right. I kind of like the idea of Gerard as keeping his character type, but being the helicopter pilot. To Christian Bale, and then Alex and what was his character's name now? God damn it.
Creedy? Are you talking Gerard Butler? Creedy.
Yeah. So Creedy's now the pilot, and then Van Zandt is now the leader, and he functions as like the dad, and then Alex is like the mom to the community. They don't even have to have like a romantic connection, but like, you know, functionally they work as like the mom and dad to this community.
Yeah.
Or you could even get goofy and switch it up, and Matthew McConaughey, Gerard Butler, that could be fun.
Yeah, definitely could. I just feel like for this movie, that balancing was one of the few things that like just worked really, really well.
Yeah. If you're swapping, you have to swap pairs. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, also, Aaron requested that we keep Alexander Siddig in the film. That was requested. Yeah. So where would we put him?
Yeah, I say he just kind of stays within his role with the pioneers. You know, he's kind of like the communications guy. He's in the back of the like whatever vehicles they're using to get around. For some reason I have this idea of like a horse-drawn military vehicle, like the back end of a support truck got cut off, and so they just turned it into a cart to attach to horses.
That's from Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I like that.
I do have kind of a big issue with horses, though, because they would be a very difficult creature to keep alive with these kind of hunters around.
Also, they'd be much better served as food.
Yeah, they're not great at defending themselves against like real predators. I mean, I like the idea of animals. I'm just trying to think, like, potentially what could you get that would stand a chance on its own at surviving against a dragon, you know?
Guys, I've got it.
Okay.
What?
They rolled through Boston at one point, and they picked up the Boston Dynamics robot dogs, and that's what pulls their vehicles. Would that not be super fun?
Okay, sure.
They have like
why not?
They have like solar panels on the backs of vehicles to power them, and then there's no issue. Like, and you could even have them pointed out, like, yeah, we tried like horses, we tried cows, we tried dogs at one point, but I mean, the dragons don't want to eat the robots, so these guys work.
Love the idea. Instead of solar panels, which in a ashen world would be terrible, what if they found a way to harness like dragon breath? That might be difficult. I don't know.
Well,
That's
okay.
very difficult.
Well, what if it went like this? So, throughout the film, we see the dragons drooling their chemical, right? What if wherever they post up for the night, the dragons, I mean, they find these nests and there's like pools of this, dragon breath on the ground, and so that's how they collect by staying, figuring out where they're nesting and then picking the stuff up that way.
They would have to have like fuel scouts.
Yeah.
Run out to get stuff. That could definitely make for some fun scenes.
People with like siphon tubes to collect stuff up off the ground, and
or you have to sneak up on like where a nest of dragons are, and they're drooling, and you have to sneak into the cave and collect it as they're sleeping.
That's another thing I wanted to bring up. The dragons, I think, need to get nerfed a little bit. Even making them smaller, I think, makes them actually scarier. So, like, what if they had great, like, eagle vision, but they were essentially deaf?
Yeah. The only time they say they're like ineffective is what was it, Magic Hour?
Yeah.
But that never really comes into play at any point in this movie.
I think it's implied that it's Magic Hour at the end with the bull dragon. But it's not like
never stated.
Yeah, it's not like expressly part of the plan.
If it's supposed to be Magic Hour, why is it still gray outside?
Yeah,
it's just gray. It's fucking gray all over the place.
Yeah, I think like because it's the opposite of the creatures from The Quiet Place, right? It's if they're awake and they can see you, they're gonna fuck you up. But if you're quiet while they're sleeping, they'll never hear you as long as you don't disturb them. So that could be like, and you could even have a scene where halfway through the movie, the dragons start patrolling and having like a watch dragon, and the people figure out the dragons are learning as well. Like the velociraptors learn how to use doors in Jurassic Park. It ups the ante into this like, oh shit, they're learning. Oh no.
If you go with poor hearing too, you can play in the idea that like the Kentucky regulars, they're flying helicopters, they're driving these big vehicles, they're creating a lot of ground vibration.
Right.
Are constantly alerting dragons to their presence without realizing that it's because of that.
Right.
So just kind of bringing in that thing of like these two people, because what I would love to see is it's not in any individual person pursuing these dragons that ultimately allows them to defeat them, but the culmination of just two individual groups coming together at the right time with different sets of knowledge able to be like, oh, now we have enough to actually take these things down.
Yeah, the irregulars figured out the weak spots, where to kill, where the armored spots are here, the weak spots are here, and then the pioneers are like, oh yeah, we figured out that they're deaf because when they do like dive bombs, they can't hear anything anyway, so they just adapted to be deaf. That could be really cool.
I'm just thinking about a scene of like one of the badass irregulars who wants to take dragons meets one of the scouts who's like, I walk right up to dragons every night and just, pick up their fuel and like get stuff out of their mouth. Like, two totally different badass people from different perspectives.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I like that. I like that a lot. Something we oddly don't see in the movie proper: baby dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's never a point where they ever hatch. Like, we see one egg, but it never hatches.
Right.
That was kind of odd to me. It's like he spends all that time digging into that carcass just to pull out an egg, just to see if they're lying or not. And I'm like, why would you not take their word for it?
Also, why would you not eat the dragon at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that's a giant pile of meat. You're set
Yep.
for a while.
Listen,
If you have a freezer down there, you'll be good.
give me some medium rare dragon steak. I'm set.
Well, actually, don't they say that they actually smell really bad?
You know what? It's the apocalypse. I'll get over it. I'll hold,
Yeah,
I'll
I mean,
hold my
they do,
nose.
but everything you ever kill smells bad if you open it up. Like, that's
Yeah.
not...
But yeah, it's true. It's true. I was wondering if they were gonna spend some time like digging open the big carcass at the end of the movie, and they're gonna find like Van Zandt's body. Let's chew it up. Let's bury our dead. What's left of him?
His tattooed, jacked arm. That's it.
Also,
It's all that's left.
Also, why are dragon funerals not a thing? Like, just funeral pyres, but dragon bait. They turn everything to ash before they consume it. They don't, like, all
That's
indicators
so
are
smart.
they... Yeah.
That
Like-
also brings me another problem of they're burning fire all the time in this movie. That creates ash, which would attract the dragons. Wouldn't it be a good idea to not be burning anything?
Yeah. I think partly the idea is, like, there's so much ash in the world that the human fires really aren't creating that much of a signal.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you had a campfire in the middle of a forest blaze, nobody's going to notice.
I mean,
Kind of a thing.
True.
I love that idea of like them kind of untabooizing death. Early in the movie, you have, you know, a character gets killed or something, and then you see the pioneers like, or actually no, the irregulars do it. They're because they'd be fucked up enough to think of it. Somebody died. We're gonna put their body out and attract some dragons in, and then kill them. So like even in death, you're bait. I love that idea.
It's like
That's pretty good. And like Quinn never even considers that idea, and he thinks that it's disgusting and horrible. Why would you do this to people?
Exactly.
Like the difference in that's the biggest problem. There's not enough of a wedge between these two characters,
Right.
Yeah.
for them to actually seem like it's a real team up at the very end of the film.
Well, because I like the idea. You pointed out that he's kind of Ahab-like. If both characters were their own kind of Ahab, and then as you realize that they're very similar, the characters are realizing it, and so their bonding point is they're both driven by this kind of insanity, and they recognize the crazy in each other, and that's the point where they're friends. That's super interesting to me, because you can't do double Ahabs properly unless they're very, you know, kind of culturally different in that way.
What if you instead of like them specifically pursuing the bull, they've both been in their own way taking on dragons consistently, and then they kind of stumble across the bull, like they see a dragon for the first time ever that's way larger than the others, and that is kind of what ties them together, that need to go take that individual dragon down.
You could do like a Emperor's New Groove thing where they kind of get separated from everyone else as a pair, and the trauma bonding that happens, and then they also find the bull dragon at that time. That sets up the stakes for the end, as well as giving them the character development. Disney's so good at this kind of character work. It's really easy to just reference back to them to be like, oh yeah, Emperor's New Groove, they did it there. This is 100% perfect.
Especially if their like discontentment with each other had spread throughout their entire crew, and then they come back and now they have to get these two groups to work together and overcome that without that bonding moment.
Yeah, because then all your side characters can have a little growth as well, as you pair them up with their counterpart on the other team, and you know you have the big like camaraderie scene just before the third act where now the stakes are set. Everyone's friends. Everyone cares about each other. Now you care. Now we're going to put these people through the ringer to end the movie.
Yeah. Ooh, that okay. So if we're leaning into the horror aspect,
Yeah.
here's a thought, right? So right now, the way they have it set up, the bull dragon really doesn't care about the females at all, right? Eggs are laid, he kind of go fertilize them, eat the females if he wants to. But what if he had a brood? And the final battle didn't just require fighting him, but actually navigating his brood at the same time.
I like the thought. I think that maybe that's what we bring to the forefront instead of it being a single male thing. Maybe it's like worker bees where all the males actually stay in to take care of the smaller baby dragons, and there's only one nest. Like the point of origin nest, and that's what everybody's seeking. Instead of it being because one bull dragon in 10 years is not going to make millions of dragons. I'm sorry,
right.
Also, that's also weird that it basically implies that the species is kind of at a dead end, because if you only have one male breeding out all the rest of them, how does that work genetically?
Not well, my friend. Not well.
Not well. So they get one more generation, and that's the end of it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think fixing the bull dragon fixes a lot of their life cycle that was bugging you, Devon.
Yeah, it does. It also, so for that final scene, if you've got these two teams working together, it gives you a lot of smaller moments for these individual pairings to like all kind of take on their own dragon, right?
Yeah.
But then when you've done that, when they've successfully killed this nest, there's no evidence to them that this is the last one, that this has solved the problem. It's like, hey, we've just done this. We know how to do it. We need to go out and start finding these things and killing them. And that's kind of where you end, of like, there's hope, but it's not the instant solution that we kind of get here.
Yeah. In the group chat, we were bringing up How to Train Your Dragon is really good at this whole setup. I think Aaron wanted us to specifically mention the idea that like some dragons are domesticatable, and maybe there's like different types within the species, and a lot of this stems from they wanted to do kind of like high fantasy dragon riders. What was the name of that series?
Dragon Riders of Pern?
There you go, Dragon Riders of Pern. And then, Devon, I remember you bringing up, is it Telmarine, the like Napoleonic Dragon Wars book series?
Ooh, no, I don't know if that was me.
I could have sworn.
I think that was Aaron that did that.
Probably.
Oh, no, it was Josh. It was Josh. Josh brought that up.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so that kind of like, if they're domesticatable, this sets up for like a new world order. Or at least, a change in the world. Because that's how to Train Your Dragon ends. It goes from all dragons are evil and bad and we must kill them into actually we could maybe functionally make some of these part of society.
Yeah. And that works too if you're working with this hive idea, and then you have different type of workers. If you have dragons whose dedication is to like caring for young or something, then potentially they are, like you said, domesticatable, but you have specific ones that are kind of the troublemakers.
Yeah. Yeah, because even within like bee hierarchy, you have your queen, the birther, you have your workers that collect pollen, you have hive defenders that have like the ability to sting multiple times. They're much more aggressive when you're in the wrong place. Then you have like wasps have their own like weird setup and hierarchy. Sometimes they work together in a hive. Sometimes they're totally individual. I think giving a little species diversity will kind of help with this DNA issue that we've run into.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that a lot. So we've got character development. We've got an idea for the ending. We've got kind of a new setup. I think setting is the last thing. Aaron mentioned Sudan. I think that would look rad. For as much as I hate the Transformers movies, the first one, when they're in the desert, looks pretty fucking good in those scenes.
Yeah.
But we did say we need more verticality with these things.
Yeah. So that presents an interesting problem.
Yeah, and I had thought... I had thought earlier, I forget what part of this something we had mentioned made me think of setting this in Africa. And like Sudan itself, like inside of it's pretty flat, but there are mountains not too far away. Like there's massive, massive mountains right there.
Set it in Wakanda.
Wakanda.
The crossover
Solved all
we
your
never
problems.
wanted or needed.
Wakanda has everything. Hot take, I think the Russos film Wakanda better than Coogler did. Personal opinion. I like the way Wakanda...
Those be fighting words.
I like the way Wakanda looks in like Infinity War and Civil War, and I think it looks cooler there. It's very flat in Black Panther. I don't know.
Yeah.
Different topic, different time.
Okay.
I just a quick Google search has brought up that in South Sudan, there are mountain ranges with peaks as high as 10,000 feet. So, definitely potential there.
So I guess that would beg the question: why did our group end up in Africa? This is the how did you put a helicopter in a plane issue?
Well, so
missionary group. UN missionary group.
Ooh.
Missionary group could work. Also, deserts are the least burnable places on the planet, i.e., probably the safest for something that wants ash.
Oh, you know what else would be cool too? If when they go through the desert, they step on glass and they realize that dragons have blasted through there recently. Ooh. That's how you that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
His entire sand dunes turned to glass.
Yeah, so then the issue is humanity, what's left over, recognizes that flat areas tend to be more hospitable because the dragons can't fly around them. They have to walk, right? But then the downside is growing things in flat areas without like running water and things like that. It makes society very difficult to do, which is why they switch to be nomadic. It's like they gather supplies in the more dragon-infested areas, and then they pop back out into the flats to live. So we're kind of following the raiding parties more than like the center of humanity, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you could have like you could still have like a stationary village set up, and then you have your parties going in and out of that location.
Dude, I just had a brain blast here. Sorcerer. Instead of it being dynamite trucks, it's water trucks, and that's your ticking thing, is trying to get water back to people.
Yeah,
good.
I like that.
Splitting
them like that also gives us a chance to develop the father-son relationship that currently is between Bale's character and his adopted kid, but obviously would then be McConaughey, and that role of like, hey, I need you to watch over the fort while I leave. And then you can even at the end, in the final battle, he finally is like, okay, you're joining us for this. It's kind of like a recognition.
Wait a minute, that's just his arc in Interstellar.
Is it? I mean, it is a super common arc. I'm not gonna lie, nothing new.
I know. I'm making a joke, but still, it's just funny that you brought up the same thing.
Hey, steal.
Right. That's my favorite thing Dice Art has ever messaged me was plagiarize life. I was like, that's really fucking good advice for writers.
Nice, Josh. That's good.
Nice.
Can't wait to talk to you next week, man.
Yeah, this is great. I honestly, this happens every time we do the writer's room setup. I'm like, yeah, there's not a lot here. We're probably just going to land on something very similar to the original movie. And now we're like, no, it's nomadic cultures and velociraptor dragons and Captain Ahab and holy shit. Yeah, this is the potential, guys. This is what things could be.
Yeah. Moving into a different location really helps this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Getting it out of England really saves most of the film.
There's also a real question here. So in Sudan, in that area, the mountains are high enough that they get snowy and icy and cold.
Yeah.
Which would bring up a question of like, one, how do dragons do in the cold? Two, if you're in a desert and you need lots of water, you're not bringing that back. I mean, you could, but the best way to get that is not necessarily in liquid form.
Right.
but solid form. So a lot of your forays could be up the mountain to gather ice, which could create an area like if dragons don't handle cold well, then there could literally be like the territory where dragons exist that you have to get through to kind of get to your salvation, which is all of that water.
Ooh. Or you could do, you could have it set up that everyone knows exactly where the nest is, because when you look at the snowy mountain peaks, you can see a very obvious melted area where the dragons have nested up and lit fires and like actually heated the landscape so much that the snow's gone from that spot. So when the irregulars show up and they're like, oh, we're looking for the nest, all the pioneers can be like, oh, it's right there. You can see it on the mountain.
Yeah.
Where all the snow's melted? Yeah, that's where the hot dragons are.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so the pioneers are doing their like, scout missions to get supplies and stuff. Maybe they, previous to the movie starting, they had a very bad dragon attack, and so we're getting a bunch of new characters that aren't used to this dragon world setup, right? There's like one leftover guy that knows how to guide these people. So when the irregulars show up, they strike a deal in that if you protect us going to get water, we'll take you to the nest. So you have this like uneasy alliance starting off, and then you get the bonding that happens through to the end where the pioneers weren't even originally going to help destroy the nest, dig down, dig deep, that kind of like, bury your head in the sand, literally mentality. Yeah. And then the switchover is actually, you know what, we want to buck up and do something about this. So what we were talking about, the character development we were kind of digging for in the original is now like the direct text within the movie. So you get the one-to-one examples as it goes.
Yeah. I like that too, because like really it allows us to bring the irregulars in much earlier in the movie.
Oh yeah.
And spend most of our time with this like weird group dynamic.
So this gives us a unique possibility. The survivor scout gives us a good celebrity cameo. Who should be the crazy old guy that survived the dragon attack?
Ooh.
Alexander Siddig? Put him there?
Okay.
As opposed to the radio guy?
That's good. I like that. I don't know why Bill Murray popped into my head.
No, that's too good.
No, you need somebody who like believably would sneak up on a dragon, but at the same time portrays insanity.
What was that guy from 28 Days Later? Brendan Gleeson.
I was just about to say that. Literally, I was like, Mad-Eye Moody. That would be a good character.
There you go, that guy.
Great minds and all that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's perfect. Yeah, because he's big and like domineering in general, and he's the guy that like he'll go and slit a dragon's throat in its sleep just for fun.
Yeah.
If they're smaller, if they're Velociraptor size now, it's conceivable you could take out one by yourself. But because they hunt in packs, it's like way more difficult.
Yeah, it makes it more interesting when there's more than just one giant one, because it's like the odds are so stacked against the characters within the film. It's like if McConaughey and his crew and it hadn't shown up at all, they'd still just be holed up in that hold, just waiting to die.
Yeah.
So by putting it like this, there's actual odds for them to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
There's also like you can open on the Halo jump sequence just to set up the rules of the dragon world visually. So like maybe things aren't totally explained, but you get a very, very quick idea. Hey, this is a big high concept fantasy survival horror thing. It's scary. You have people getting like murked in the sky as they're doing the sky jumps, because again, if you can get above the dragons, you might be able to take them out on your way down. And so we get to open with that and introduce the irregulars super, super early, so we know exactly who is where and what the stakes are from the get-go. Because you can cut the whole like. Actually, here's a good question. Why did we need to see the dragons being birthed at the beginning of the movie with child Christian Bale anyways? Like, what does it add?
Not much.
It sets up that he wants revenge for the death of his mother.
But does he? Because he holds up in a castle for most of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's like I said, this movie's missing certain pieces.
Yeah.
I think that's one that's missing. It's not reinforced very well.
Yeah,
You know what?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, you know what could be fantastic if you open with the Halo jump, you open with that. What if the irregulars coming in and taking out dragons is part of what causes the attack on the nomads in the first place?
Oh,
like if they
yeah.
stir up the dragons, and then those
They're
dragons
being
come
pushed
after
to
the
another
gatherers.
territory?
Yeah, and that gives you even more reason why these two groups are at odds with each other.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then you can have somebody say the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
You're saying like opening with the Halo jump sets up the stakes. Are you trying to say that the Halo jump in Godzilla 2014 is how they should have opened that movie?
I'm just saying if that's the balls to the wall opening to that movie, I'm the fuck on board.
Yeah. Cut the rest of the movie. The movie is boring.
Oh, okay. There's our celebrity cameo. Jared Kiso is the crazy guy that survived the dragons.
Fuck you, O'Reilly.
He just doesn't speak because he's got like severe trauma and PTSD.
But sometimes you hear Shorzy off screen.
That would be really funny because he's got to like train this new set of pioneer scouts, right? And like he doesn't talk a lot, so he just gives you the most direct information. Like they can't hear. So, do you want to elaborate? I do not. That'd be fun. This is good stuff. It's definitely more tonally like I think Pitch Black, like we were saying. It's kind of shifted its genre a little bit. But I dig that. I think that's really fun.
Yeah, it needed to shift. If you're trying to make this a little bit more digestible over it being just a standard B movie, it needed to shift quite a bit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And Jesse, you brought up Overlord as a good comparison. I think the thing that Overlord does well is functionally it's not one big thing. It's, these like growing and developing issues.
It's a small event set in the big world.
Right, exactly. And I would like that to be the case here. I'd like it to tonally kind of fit that. So I guess the last thing we need to pick is what if the Elektra director didn't direct this? Who would you guys put in that chair? Our version specifically.
Well, I mean, if we're going with like Pitch Black, David Twohy.
I could see it.
I mean, it's not bad. I mean, he's as many good movies as he's done. He's also done a bunch of garbage. So, Chronicles of Riddick.
That's how you know that the director is only as good as the material that they're creating.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's who would be good for this?
Yeah. This is a weird one.
I'm thinking like Ron Underwood, who did Tremors.
Yeah, okay. Tremors is a really good visual style for this too, right? You got sand, desert, rocks, survival horror. That's actually a really good angle. You could have Kevin Bacon as the survivor guy, the guy that survived the dragon attack.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm for that. I'm for Ron Underwood.
Yeah, Ron Underwood would be great. The guy that directed Overlord, Julius Avery. I don't know if you've seen. I think he only has like 2 other movies. They're both pretty good. I think he's doing a Van Helsing remake in the Dark Universe. I don't know if that got canceled or not, but he was on board for something like that.
Oh, I think the Dark Universe is long since dead.
Well, the redo of the Dark Universe. That's right. They're relaunching it. They're doing it again.
Well, if it ain't broke, keep taking a hammer to it.
I mean, it's the Universal Monsters. What are they going to do? Stop?
Yeah. True.
Yeah, they just were like, all right, well, we'll try again with a bunch of new directors and maybe less Tom Cruise.
Well, just keep doing your Mission Impossible movies, dude.
Oh, what is it? Macquarie that does the Mission Impossible movies?
Christopher McQuarrie.
I could see him doing something like this.
Yeah, nuts and bolts director. Not really interested in like having a message or a style. Just like very, very efficient.
It's all about like giving a good story, and you don't have to put metaphors in it.
Yeah. Or if he was still working, John Carpenter.
Oh, dude, I would kill for a John Carpenter dragon movie, as long as it didn't
Yeah.
feel like Ghost of Mars.
Yeah. As long as it doesn't feel like early John Carpenter, later John Carpenter, not so good.
Devin, do you have any director ideas?
No, I mean you get this area of film is a little outside of my normal wheelhouse. So, like, I was even trying to think of other films that, for me, would work in a similar field. I'm struggling on that end.
Well, if that's the case, then we'll turn.
What about
go ahead.
Neil Marshall.
Oh yeah, Neil Marshall on a good day. That I fuck with that. That's good.
He's done good episodes of Game of Thrones. There you go.
He's done great movies too. That what's the cave movie?
The Descent.
The Descent. Yes, dude.
Not the sequel. The original. The yeah, not the terrible sequel.
The Descent, but with dragons. That's a pitch right there. That's the like foot in the door elevator pitch.
There you go.
Nice.
I like it.
You could even have a sequence where they're doing the cave scene where she has the night vision on the camera.
Yeah.
And there's a dragon coming up towards her, but he can't hear her.
Yes.
Yeah. That'd be good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I dig that. So I'll turn this over to the audience then. Who would you like to see direct our version of Reign of Fire? Are we going to stick with the title? Does that still work?
Yeah, title's fine.
Yeah.
It's a good title.
Yeah, I'm good
Yeah.
with it. This has been a great time. What a good pitch. I'm very happy where we landed.
Yeah.
Yeah. No complaints here.
Well, I shouted everything out at the top of the episode, as I'm going to try to do going forward. I'm on, I guess, audio recorded record now saying that, so keep me straight, guys. But this is the shout outs at the end of the episode. If you stuck around this long, I would welcome you to continue listening as Jesse and Devin talk about the things that they have going on. Devin, we'll start with you if you have anything to shout out.
Honestly, nothing public at the moment. Everything I'm doing is currently behind closed doors. Just to be as mysterious as possible. But
Awesome.
I've been out of the game too long.
Well, then I'll switch to Jesse. Jesse, the host of Split the Difference and That Weird Ass Game. It's your turn.
Yes, we have Split the Difference, where we take original films, compare them to their remakes, and we also have That Weird Ass Game, where we discuss weird, unusual games. That's coming back very soon. And the other one we have, Aaron's show, we have Palette Cleanser, where we discuss just good movies, and we have some good stuff coming out pretty soon. And if you want to get in touch with me, just find me on Twitter at HardcoreBshot.
Awesome. And I have been your Pitchmaster General, Seth. You can hit me up at SethXDecker on most social media. You can also support the show on Patreon, like I said at the top. It's $1 for access to our full library, early release episodes, extended episodes, shows that are only accessible on Patreon can all be found at patreon.com/Montressor Media. We are super, like a beard's hair width away from being 2/3 of the way to our overall goal to get us into an office and turn these into YouTube video shows so that we can continue ripping off Red Letter Media. I didn't say that. I'm very excited for that. It's been a great time. Access is $1, so for the price of half a cup of coffee, or maybe an eighth of a cup of coffee if you go to Starbucks regularly.
I was gonna say, where are you getting coffee?
Where are you getting your coffee from?
I still go to Royal Farms and get the $1 cup, man. That's listen. If you're gonna put black tar right into your system, that's the way to do it. I have been your Pitchmaster General. Thank you for listening to Reign of Fire, and good night. So I'm convincing Jesse to watch Arrested Development with me. I totally forgot about that. The family friend of George Sr. That he hires to like torture the children into learning lessons.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's why you don't leave the refrigerator door open. Oh, man.
Oh, God. That show is great.
That show probably, definitely like top 3 all-time favorite TV shows for me.
It's so, like, repulsive and so offensive, but they got away with it because they wrote it so well. Like the, what episode was it? The Afternoon Delight episode, where they talk about what the song actually means. and Jason Bateman and Michael Cera are singing it at the same time, and he's just kind of like, yeah, it doesn't sound filthy when you just sing it, does it? No, you don't.
Mother lover. Oh, man. Yeah.
Always money in the banana stand.
Michael, there was $250,000 lining the walls of the banana stand. No touching. Oh, man.
Oh, God, I love that movie.
That show is so good. Yeah, very. You know, actually, for the Netflix seasons being like a little subpar, they're still way better than most TV shows, and it all pays off in this like insane finale where they're in court, and Ron Howard, who, if you recall, is the narrator, as himself in the show, is suing them and talking about himself as the narrator. It gets twisty and loopy and really funny.
Did they do a 5th season?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
5 total.
Oh, man. 6 seasons on a movie!
We can only hope. All right, you guys ready to jump back in?
I saw the worst April Fool's joke yesterday, which was
no.
Dan Harmon confirms Community movie is moving forward.
Oh.
It's like, you know what? Why don't you all just fuck off, okay?
So I posted that the New Gods movie got canceled, and the Discord was like, "Oh, dude, check the date. It's April 1st." And I was like, "Nah, dude, read that article. It's real."
No, it's done. It's dead.
I was excited for it.
Well, maybe they should have come first before they did Dark Side.
Right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.